Hi, I'm Sonnet with Sonnet's Garden Blooms. I want to welcome you all to my channel. Now today is going to be all inspired by spring. I'm going to show you some DIYs that are vintage inspired spring projects. I have not been feeling the best, so unfortunately I did not get my booth restock done. For any of my booths, I've kind of been hunkered down and just dreaming about spring. So guess what? You guys all get to dream with me and see my spring decor inspiration that I'm giving you. If you haven't used any of the IOD transfers, especially Brocante, you are in store for a real treat. This has been, since they've released Brocante, it has been by far one of my favorite transfers. I love the birds. I will be using that today. So I hope you enjoy the video. If you haven't been to my channel before, what you're gonna find is DIYs, furniture flips, thrift hauls, just really a day in the life of a small business owner. If that is the type of channel that you do like, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, turn on that bell notification. That way every Monday and Friday when I do release a video, you'll be notified. And let me know at the end of the video what your favorite DIY was today. Well, I hope you guys enjoy. For this project, what you're gonna need is some Easter eggs, the plastic kind. You're going to need an old book with pages that look yellowed and distressed. But we also are gonna use the Dark and Decrepit from DIY to distress them a little bit more. And Mod Podge to Mod Podge the pages onto the eggs and just a brush. So let's go ahead and get this project started.
So first, just pull out all the eggs that you're wanting to use and make sure the tops are on tight. If I would do this again in the future, I would definitely glue them shut. Then take your book pages and tear them up. The other recommendation would be to make sure that there's no white edges of the paper. Once I started doing it, I realized I did not like that look. So in the future, I would just tear off any of the edges around the actual writing, unless you want that look, of course. So to start off, I would just start by applying Mod Podge to each of the eggs and then laying down a piece of the book paper and then Mod Podging over, taking your finger and really rubbing that piece on and then starting to layer. I would recommend working multiple eggs at one time, letting them dry and then going back once they're dry and adding more of the book pages. I finally broke down and I actually got an egg carton out. This was very helpful just to let them all be able to dry in each of those where the eggs actually sit. But in the end, I realized what I needed to do to make this go as quick as possible, just by working multiple pieces. At first I thought, oh, I'll just put one piece on each one and then add. You can actually add like 3 to 4 pieces on each one and then move on. And then by the time you go back, the first set or the first egg is somewhat dry, and then you can start adding on. But here's a different close-up so you can see I'm just adding Mod Podge, laying the piece down, and just adding to it. But like I said earlier, once I realized I did not like that look of the white paper, I went back and I added just pieces of the actual print over that because I didn't like that white sticking out. This did turn into being quite a messy project. I had to continuously wash my hands, and it was pretty lengthy of a process to get these pieces of paper on the eggs. But in the end, I love the overall look. So the next step is we are going to take the transfer wander and we are going to cut out pieces and apply those to the eggs. I find that I hear so often that transfers are meant just for big pieces of furniture, and IOD's transfers can be cut up. You can use them for your smalls as well. And I just love the look of these flowers on the actual writing of the pages. These also went on so easy. I barely had to rub and they just applied. So I was like kind of worried because it was like not a perfectly flat surface, but I just started on one end and I just kept on rubbing and it just peeled, just went on like butter. It was just perfect. And I love the look of these. I think they turned out so awesome. I definitely have more ideas of what else I would like to try with these in the future. Again, this was the first time that I attempted to do this. I actually had seen something a while ago on this, and I had bought those eggs to do this, but I just never had gotten around to it. And because I'm at home and I thought, well, I'm feeling springy, guys, just feeling really springy. And I thought, what could I do? And so I decided to make this video today on all things spring. So the last thing that you do need to do is just apply that last coat of Mod Podge over the transfer just to seal it in, just like you would with like a clear coat or a wax. Just the Mod Podge will seal that piece in. So for our next project, if you remembered, I found this at the bins. We are going to take white Swan, and it's a DIY paint. We are going to apply 2 coats to the platter, and then we are going to use my favorite transfer, Brocante, and we are going to use the birds. I've been wanting to use these birds for so long, and this is a perfect opportunity. So I am going to I realized I couldn't use that whole piece. I thought it would be too big. So I'm going to use half of it. So I'm going to cut this basically in half of the birds. But to get started, let's go ahead and start painting. And I, like I said, did 2 coats of the white Swan on both sides. After that, it was drying. I cut that in half so you can see what I'll be using. Once I had the paint 2 coats of paint applied, I did do a wet distressing, and I've done this in the past. It's such an easy way to wet distress any of your chalk type paints. DIY's paint is a clay-based paint, so it works very similar. And I just went in and I distressed it just like so. I then used Big Top, which is a clear coat for DIY, and I clear coated the whole piece. I did decide I felt like it was dry enough, and I applied the birds. I think I did it too soon. It got a little sticky, and it was a little bit more distressed as well, just by when I peeled that back. I then recoated it with the DIY's Big Top, and the project is complete.
Is this all that you dreamed it'd be? Ending up here, ending
For this project, my vision here is I found these old bobbins. I have 6 of them. They're all the same size. So I'm gonna take some twine. I'm gonna wrap twine on there and just put a tiny bow. I'm also going to take more of the eggs. First glance, I want to paint them. I am going to take the IOD clay and just fill in like some of the holes, and there's some on the bottom just so that I have a real nice clean surface to work with when I paint it with my DIY paint. After I get those painted and these spooled, I am going to take, I have 2 different molds from IOD, and at first I was going to use the Harper, but it's all lowercase, which I love this font. But I decided to use Victoria. It is an uppercase font. I think it adds a little bit more of a vintage charm to it. So we're gonna use that with the IOD clay as well. And we're gonna write Easter on here. So we're gonna create a cute little display for Easter.
So here I'm starting to wrap that twine around the bobbins, and I did use just a little hot glue on the edge, applied that and just wrapped it around, and then again applied a little hot glue to hold it into place. Next, I took the Gorilla Glue. It's a clear glue, and I applied it to all of the actual eggs just to keep them completely shut. Next, I chose 3 colors. I went with Prom Queen, Mint Chip, and Cake Batter, and I started painting. I quickly realized this was going to take several coats of paint. The Cake Batter was by far the one that needed the most coats, but you can see that here.
Currently, I have 2 coats of paint on the Cake Batter, 2 coats of paint on the Mint Chip, and currently 1 coat of paint on Prom Queen. I am going to let these dry and then apply another coat, like a 3rd layer on these 2, I want to get 3 layers on each, and at that point, see how they are looking. Well, I'm pretty happy with how these turned out. I had to do several layers on each of them, and what I found is, yeah, I think if you do a couple more layers, it might even be better to hide some of the imperfections. But I like the look, like if you can see like the cracking, I think it looks kind of cool. I actually like it. Like this one, I really like how it turned out, like with all the, it just looks real vintagey and old looking. I like that cracking. So from here, what I plan on doing is we are going to put a clear coat on here. We're gonna clear coat them, and then we are going to add the letters that I talked to you about. So we're gonna use the clay. We are going to use Victoria, the IOD mold, and we're gonna cut out Easter, we're gonna take the clay, the IOD Air Dry Clay, and we're gonna just take the letters for Easter. And then after these dry, we're gonna use Big Top. We're gonna clear coat them, and then we're gonna add the letters. And then from there, we're gonna take the bobbins and we are going to add them. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna do 2 things. To make them stick immediately, I am going to add a dab of the hot glue, but then I am going to apply the Gorilla Clear Glue to give it some real stability here. So we're gonna do both, but I think it's gonna look so cool. It's actually coming together.
So here I'm taking Big Top and clear coating each of the eggs, and we're going to let them dry. Then the next step is I'm taking the mold Victoria. We are using cornstarch to apply that in each of them so that it releases the air dry clay. And I'm taking the air dry clay and molding each of the letters. I'm absolutely loving how this is turning out. I redid one of the letters just because I felt like, oh, actually I redid two, but I just wanted to make sure that they were absolutely perfect, or as perfect as I could get them. I'm loving though the vintage look of these letters. I had not realized that they actually have a design on the letters too. So now, before these are applied to the eggs, I do want to paint them black. I want to paint them prior to putting them on because otherwise it would be virtually impossible to get all the edges. But I still want these to be wet enough, or like the clay to be pliable enough that I can put them on the eggs or bend them and fit them to the eggs. So I am going to paint these first, let the black dry enough, and then apply them. So here I'm going ahead and going to be applying the letters. And to do that, I use Titebond. It is by far one of the best products to use to apply the air dry clay. And I just flip the actual letter over, apply a little bit to it, and then attach it to the actual egg.
So with our next project here, what I am using are containers, these terracotta containers. Anytime I'm out thrifting, whether I'm rummaging or at the thrift store, if I can pick these up for very inexpensively, I grab them, and I do have an area where I display them temporarily unless I need them in my backyard area. Being a master gardener, I love creating like little vignettes in the yard as well. So I went out, grabbed these out of my stash of containers out there. And what I'm going to do, I just washed them up a bit, but I love the actual look of them just the way they are. But I do want to make the transfer that I'm using really pop. So what we're going to use is white Swan. So I'm going to give it 2 coats of white Swan. And then we're going to use the traditional POTS transfer from IOD. And I'm taking 3 of the images, and we're going to put them and transfer them right on the pots. And then we're going to plant them up. And this is going to be a great spring project to add some floral to your booths or to your home very easily and very inexpensively. One thing too with the transfers from IOD, so many people think you have to use them on like furniture pieces, but you can cut them up and use them on your smalls as well. So something to think about, but let's go ahead and get started.
So here I'm applying 2 coats of the White Swan DIY paint. Always remember, or don't forget, to paint the inside lip of your container. It just finishes it off. So next we're going to cut out the transfers we're going to use. Initially, I thought I had a lot more room on each of those containers or each of those pots. Then I had to get creative and cut off some of the wording, but you can use all of these pieces however you want. And then you want to apply a clear coat, so I did apply Big Top to this. It will seal the whole container, and then you can apply your transfer at that point. The pots are dry, and let's go ahead and start applying the transfers. I did choose writing for one of them and 2 images for the other 2. I'm absolutely loving how this is turning out. Once you apply your transfer, you always want to do what's called burnish it and take that backing and just give it a good rub. But applying transfers is one of the easiest things. I was so intimidated when I first started using these. You just pull up a little bit. If anything hasn't transferred, just lay it back down and give it a good rub. Now that we've done that, what we're going to do is use the dry foam. We are going to cut it into threes and we are going to insert it into each of the containers. I do pick this up at the Walmart and it's very inexpensive and you get 3 chunks of it. So you can see I used 1 chunk for 3 of the containers. After that, then what we're going to do, I found these last year and they were only 97 cents last year. The price has definitely gone up. I did cut a chunk of the bottom off so that it would fit, and then I'm just going to insert each of these into the container or each of the actual pots. Very easy, and then from there, I'm going to show you the next step. So here we're taking coffee grounds and we are going to apply glue to the grounds, and I just use standard Elmer's glue, and then the coffee grounds I have already used and then I've dried them. What we're going to do is we're creating soil or faux dirt for your containers, and you can see I just get a nice even consistency. I just mix as much as I continue to add as I need it, but I just want it to be a nice thick gooey substance there where it's not too runny and not too thick. I then take it and then I start applying it and make it look like soil. It goes in so easy. It does take a couple days to dry, so just be aware of that. If you do this and want to put it in one of your booths, it does take a couple days to completely dry or the glue to dry. And I just wipe away any excess from the edges, but in the end, it really does look like soil.
For this project, I found this frame out of the bins, if you remember from my last haul, one of my last haul videos, and I love it just the way it is. I thought about, repainting it, but if you actually look, I like how that gold is coming through. I just like how it's naturally distressed the way it is. And I'm going to take this bird nest, and I found it. I don't know if I was thrifting or what, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the bird nest in here. We're gonna adhere it with some hot glue, and then I'm going to, actually I had these eggs and I just picked them up, and I think they were in some other nest at one point. I'm gonna repaint them. We're gonna add some of the eggs in here in the nest. And then what I want to do is add some sticks and just greenery in amongst here and just kind of have it flow naturally. And it's going to be as simple as that, to add just a little bit of spring to this vintage wreath, and I'm going to sell just like that. To start, let's go ahead and repaint these eggs. And I'm going to, because I painted the other eggs that blue, kind of reminds me of like a robin egg. I don't think it's a true robin egg blue, but kind of like it. So I'm gonna start by just painting it, the eggs, the blue color.
So as the eggs are drying, I am going to then take hot glue, apply it to the nest, and put it down. I probably should have looked to see initially that the frame was right side up because at this point I glue it down, I put the eggs in, everything's looking great until I realized very quickly it was upside down. And I was pretty flustered. So in the end, I had to remove the nest and take off all the glue, reapply the nest, and then I put all of the greens on.
So what did you guys all think? What was your favorite DIY? Are you going to try any of these yourself? If you are, just remember you can find all the products from IOD and DIY on my website at www.sonnetsgardenblooms.com. And there's quite a few of each item out there. So I wanted to let you know that. But I am hoping okay guys, on Friday, I am going to give you part 2 of this video. I was going to do it all today. Not sure how I'm going to be feeling throughout the week. So part 2 of the DIYs will be Friday. And then hopefully Monday's video, you are going to see the flipping of my booths, or at least one of them. I'm, like I said, under the weather, but I'm hoping to feel better by the next week. All right, well, we will see you Friday. You guys have a great week. Stay healthy. Bye.